To vote for Trump in November of 2024 are regretting it. You know, you hear these stories over and over again. Someone voted for Trump and they cheered when he talked about law and order and border security. And then ICE showed up and took away their spouse or took away their son in law or their best friend or someone they've worked with or gone fishing with for 20 years. And they go, I didn't think Trump meant them. I thought they meant some other people off in some distant land. But of course, as we've clarified, yes, Trump meant them. It's like a wolf walking into your backyard and you don't worry because you're like, it's only going to eat other people's sheep, not mine. And then the next morning you find that it's ripped your sheep to shreds. Okay. It's not just older voters and immigrant voters that are having second thoughts. This is starting to happen with the group that Donald Trump kind of shockingly grabbed more support from, which is young voters and in particular young men who supported Trump in 2024 at a level that we have never seen before. Now, in 2020, Biden won 18 to 29-year-olds by 24 points. Biden plus 24 among young voters in 2020. In 2024, Harris barely won that group with a 4-point margin. So that means Trump went plus 20 relative to 2020 among young voters. That's a massive, massive swing. And that swing was almost entirely because of young men specifically. 56% of young men voted Biden in 2020. 56% of young men voted Trump in 2024. And what Trump offered them, and we've talked about this in our segments about what's going on with young men and Democrats before, Trump sold them this unapologetic traditional masculinity. Don't apologize, be the traditional caricature of an alpha male. And he went on the Manosphere podcast. He elevated people like Pete Hegseth and Elon Musk and says, I'm going to ban trans Americans from the military. We're going to gut DEI. We're not going to do any of this sissy boy stuff. And for a lot of young men, they saw voting Trump kind of like a cultural statement. We're going to make men great again. We're not going to be embarrassed about being men anymore. Well, they got Trump elected and the sort of shine is wearing off. There's a new Pew poll which shows that Trump's approval among under 35 voters who backed him has gone from 92% in February to 69% now. So understand that. You might say, David, that's a great number. This is if we start with young men who voted Trump, right? So we start with all of them. 100% of this group voted Trump. By February, only 92% of those young Trump voters still supported Trump. Now, only 69% of the young Trump voters still support Donald Trump. This is the biggest drop in support for Trump among any age group in his base. And what's happening is that these guys, these young guys, are getting hit really hard by the economy. Manufacturing job losses, construction job losses. These are industries that employ more men than women. We see gains in healthcare jobs, which are dominated by women. Unemployment is rising among young men in their early 20s. Even those with college degrees, we still have inflation. And when your rent check comes due, you just can't spend that. Everything was going to be cheaper. Remember, nothing's cheaper. Groceries aren't cheaper. Gas isn't cheaper. Student loan payments are still coming due. And so nearly half of men under 30 now say, oh no, the economy is very clearly getting worse. We then have the Epstein fiasco. And I do think it's worth mentioning because I think it's relevant here. For years, Trump world was hyping. Trump's going to be the guy that will expose the client list. It's going to take down Democrats. We're going to expose these pedophiles, they said. These are a lot of the same influencers who helped bring young men into Trump's camp. Joe Rogan and Andrew Schultz and others who are now saying there's a cover-up. Trump's clearly hiding something. What happened to the Epstein files? Are we ever going to see them? And so this is the same pattern as the immigration raids. People cheer the tough talk. It hits them. And all of a sudden they go, I thought Trump was going to use his power against other people. I didn't think I or my family or I didn't think I was going to live with higher prices. I didn't think I would have fewer job prospects or deal with broken promises. And so now some of the voices that sold young men Trump are saying you might have been played. This isn't going as well as we thought. So the Republican bet for 2026 is that young men stay loyal. This is just a bump in the road. This is no big deal. What we have to remember to do is welcome them back and say, hey, you know what? We're not going to shame you for now saying, I think I was led astray. We're going to say, it's awesome that you have the wherewithal and 30,000-foot view to recognize that. Come back in. But we have to have something to offer them. And unfortunately, we have very few Democrats to point to where we can say, look at this great thing, right? Someone they might be driving a jalopy, but if you don't have a better alternative to show them, if you don't look at this reliable Toyota Camry that you can get, we've got to have something to show them that is going to be a reasonable alternative. So we're going to talk about that later, but Trump is losing support